MIM Digital Marketing Specialist Program was designed by local and international industry practitioners with the aim to equip all participants with strategic, tactical and technical knowledge to immediately upskill them with the skill sets, employability and increase the demand for their services in the digital economy. The program provides a solid understanding of digital marketing ecosystem in the real world. It offers experiential learning. Participants can build capabilities and skill set to offer their services not only locally but also internationally.
So this could be a kind of advisory service that you could offer as a marketing specialist. So obviously you need to listen. You listen as in listen to social media, engage in that conversation and measure and refine that conversation.
In terms of marketing objective, this will actually support the overall business objective by promoting the brand image and presence across the markets in Asia Pacific.
In terms of the facilitators, all facilitators are industry practitioners with years of experience and facilitators who are able actually to impart the practical knowledge so that participants are able to apply whatever learned in the real life.
I'm Magat. I'm a chartered accountant by practice. So when I got to know about this program, I was interested because I always get to see this scrolling on Facebook saying this digital marketing. So I wanted to know what is this about. And then apparently we had this session with MIM. The session was very mind-blowing to me personally, being an accountant that doesn't know about this before. And actually it's very practical to our real-life situation in which what is happening behind the scene that we don't know, but we scroll through every day through our social media. So if you ask me now, can I do a digital marketing service? I'd say definitely 100%. I know what to do, where to click, who to market to, what is our potential prospecting kind of thing. So for an accountant to be able to say that, I would say that this program is successful and kudos to the organizers.
I attend this MIM courses. I think it's very beneficial. Can put all these things into our practical. I'm doing property, so this course helped me a lot so that I can do my advertisement more effectively.
I believe that I have learned a lot from this course. Speaking of the participants, I feel like everybody has been really helpful, and whoever has extra knowledge or of this digital marketing, they were very open and willing to share their knowledge. It's the beginning for me.
I would say this course is very useful and insightful for a beginner like me. I'm totally new to digital marketing. The instructor gave me a better picture of this digital marketing world.
In fact, very productive and very immersive and very hands-on. I must really give credit to MIM for doing such overall training, because to me it's a lifelong training. It doesn't end here. In short, I learned a lot. In fact, a lot more than I expected.
Thank you, HRDF.
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 Thank you, MIM.
Thank you, MIM.
Thank you, MIM. Insightful.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Mind-blowing.
A very good afternoon, and this is Siva from the Malaysian Institute of Management, and I welcome you to our MIM Crucial Conversations. And today the topic is on micro, small, and medium enterprise, the growth engine of the nation. With us today, our distinguished panel of speakers, Mr. Segaran from MDEC, Mr. Jaya Balan from CIMB Bank, and Ms. Elain Lockman from Ada Plus Sendirian Berhad. And I want to thank all of you for coming on board to share your knowledge with our participants. Now, also please allow me to thank our sponsors, the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and supporting partners, the Federation of Public Listed Companies, FPLC, and the Malaysian Insurance Institute for their continuous support. Now, this is the first of the 4 webinar series focused on Malaysian Digital Economic Blueprint, My Digital, which is a national initiative that symbolizes the aspirations of the government to successfully transform Malaysia into a digital-driven, high-income nation while being at the forefront of the digital economy in the region. Now, this timing of our webinar series is, I would say, is also perfect. As you know, in a few days ago, the Prime Minister has announced the 12th Malaysia Plan. And this plan underlines the government's intention to provide an enabling environment for the growth of digital economy in preparing Malaysia to become a technology-based economy. And some initiatives were announced for the digital transformation of MSMEs. Now, please allow me to quote directly from the 12th Malaysia Plan, one being prioritizing micro, small, and medium enterprise digitization as a national agenda is a powerful game changer for the economy. This enables MSMEs, including the Bumiputra entrepreneurs, to transform, compete, and penetrate global markets. MSMEs will be equipped with skills to enable these enterprises to digitize their business process by the year 2025. And the third one is to enhance competitiveness. MSMEs will also be assisted to produce products and services on par with international standards. And lastly, to create a conducive and holistic ecosystem which will be created to support MSMEs. Therefore, I look forward to gaining expert insights from our distinguished panel of speakers on this topic, today's topic, on MSME, the growth engine of the nation, and boosting economic competitiveness through digitalization. Now, please allow me to introduce our first speaker for the day. He is none other than Mr. Segaran. He is the Head of Strategy and Research, Malaysian Digital Economic Corporation, in short, MDEC. Raja is involved in the development of macro strategies and roadmaps for the country's digital economy and sits in several national level platforms and task forces to help the country to shape strategies and policies to deliver impactful outcomes. Raja is an associate member of the Othman Yub Abdullah Graduate School of Business of University Utara, Malaysia, and he is involved in lectures and workshops to assist in the development of industry-related postgraduate students. And he is also an associate fellow with the Malaysian Institute of Management. At the international front, Raja is the chair for the Digital Economy and Financial Inclusion Subcommittee under the IE's Digital Resilience Industry Connection Program. Now, prior to joining MDEC, Raja was a director with Ernst & Young Advisory in Kuala Lumpur office as one of the leaders in the transformation domain. He has led and set up the management of several medium to large transformation offices for various clients in the public and private sectors. Now I'll hand over this session to Raja. Raja, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Siva, for the introduction, and I would like to thank MIM and KS for inviting us for this exciting topic that we have in front of us. I think we can't stress further how important digital has become. It's become a mainstream agenda today. I think not only just businesses, but also society and government. There's a whole lot of rethinking happening as we speak. Let's get to the topic, and we can have a more engaging session at some point. So the role of MSME in the digital economy is extremely crucial. So let's take a look at how things are being shaped. In today's world, as we know it, there's nothing permanent, and we don't have to wait 10 years to see a change. But I think every 10 months or even 6 months, changes are coming to our shores, and we need to be equipped to these changes and see how do we need to navigate through. So doing up 5-year plans or 10-year plans for an organization doesn't work today. So I think it's 6 months, 12 months, 18 months plan. I think that's the way to go. And as you can see, what has happened to us the last year plus because of COVID, there's a lot of activities taken up, some huge what I call steps in e-commerce and also in digital transformation. We saw an online surge of global e-commerce sales that would hit 4.2 trillion in 2021. That would mean there's a 38% year-on-year growth in Q1 2021 itself. That's a huge growth compared to the previous years. So who would have thought that in this pandemic period, such growth is to be seen. So consumers in emerging economies are making greatest shift in online shopping. Thailand saw downloads of shopping apps jump 60% in just 1 week during March 2020. Kazakhstan, the online share of retail sales almost doubled from 5% in 2019 to about almost 10% in 2020. Increased uptake in digital payments, teleworking, remote working, cloud computing solutions. Of course, all these as these are happening, we still do face some challenges in infrastructure, whether it's logistics, whether it's broadband, internet, and also other digital infrastructure. So that's the world we live in. Just to take stock, what's MSME in a global scale, right? So there are 400 million MSMEs. 95% of the firms are MSMEs, and they contribute about 60 to 70% of employment. In Malaysia context, MSME contributes more than 1/3 of the economy and 2/3 of labor force. So you can imagine the significant contribution to the economy and how important for us to manage and help MSMEs to recover, especially in these trying times. Right? As we spoke about Malaysia, in 16 years, we've not seen this. For the first time, the contribution to GDP from MSMEs has dropped from 38.9% in 2019 to 38.2% in 2020. So is this alarming? I think this is expected. I think not only in Malaysia, but I think across the globe. But we must take note of this and take precautions or take recovery steps so that we can move on and build our businesses and the enterprise. So what happened to us in MDEC last year when the whole world came to almost a complete stop? All of us started to work remotely. I'm sure everybody here in this forum today would have experienced that. So we were about to organize a physical summit actually, but then we have to move away from physical summit and think about how we're going to do virtually an SME digital summit. So that was the first time we organized a summit, but it was a pleasant surprise. We thought we will get maybe a maximum of 100,000 people, but no, we got 1 million participation over 3 days, and we were completely surprised. Said, wow, we know. I mean, we've been preaching about digital. We know about digital, but we didn't know that the impact can be this big. So it also goes to show the MSMEs or SMEs in Malaysia have also taken steps to go online. I think 2 years ago, if we were to organize this online, I'm not sure how many people would actually come on board. And then we took the opportunity to get some surveys done, and the participants said 50% of them started their digital journey, 60% intend to focus on front-end operations, 55% said sessions help them in deciding what's next for their businesses. So that was a good sign. So it clearly indicated that this is the way to go, and more of this should happen. And in fact, today we are all on virtual conference. Right? So coming back to government and what government policies are, as what Mr. Siva said, and the type and the theme for this conference is about My Digital Malaysia Digital Economy Blueprint. MDEC was involved from the beginning in this blueprint, together with Economic Planning Unit and various agencies and industry players in firming up the direction for this blueprint. And there are 6 big pillars that are established in this blueprint. I would like to highlight the one which I've marked, number 2, boost economic competitiveness through digitalization. So there's a huge emphasis on digital adoption with an intent by the government that this is the push for us to increase productivity. But 4 or 5 years ago, the government conducted a study on productivity, and that study kind of concluded that digital is the way forward to improve the productivity, labor, and the efficiency of the industries in Malaysia. And even in this document, MSME is very much focused and stressed. Coming to 12th Malaysia Plan, which was announced about a couple of days ago, a very interesting perspective here. If you do find a search for MSME, you'll find that 200 times MSMEs actually mentioned in this document. So it kind of shows the significance, the importance given to MSMEs. I've highlighted some key phrases, and Mr. Siva also coincidentally has mentioned the same phrase. Prioritizing MSME is a national agenda, a game changer for the economy. And also training and mentoring and awareness programs will be implemented for MSMEs. So I'm sure there are many occasions where MSMEs would have thought, where do I get this training? How do I go about this, and etc. I think there's a great push from the government to say for the next 5 years, this is a focus for us to prepare the MSMEs to compete in the global and local markets. Targets for MSMEs has increased from 41% in the last Malaysia plan to 45%, and that's to be achieved by 2025. Export 25% by 2025. We dipped last 2020. I think from 2019 it was 17% we dipped to about 13+% last year. So that's a huge dip, definitely because of the pandemic that we have faced. But now there's a huge push to say that we need to push the needle to 25%. So there's a whole lot of work to be done, but I think we are all in this together. Right. So basic question. I mean, many of us would have answers to this, but just taking a step back and ask ourselves, why do we need to digitalize? Right. There are many reasons, but I can think of these 2 big reasons. We need to know the agenda for adoption. One, with adoption, it kind of gives the MSMEs a level playing field to get market access, cross-border trades, customer acquisition, competing with larger companies. Where without digital, it's going to be an extremely tough task. You need a lot of resources, you need a lot of budget to do that. Number 2 is to increase efficiency and productivity. It goes without saying. We can produce more with less, right? So efficiency has increased because of automation, using of social media, advertising, etc. And not to forget, the data that we actually have that are digitized can be used for analysis, our forecast. MSMEs who never had an accounting system now able to have a simple accounting system where they would have history and also projections where business can lead them to. So it's very much amazing. In fact, a trader in the Pasar Malam would have a good chart or good graphs to show these were the earnings the last few months, and these are the reasons why they should increase some inventories, etc., etc. So yeah. Next. So we've got industry feedback showing 3 critical barriers to adoption. Number 1, awareness. Number 2, capabilities. Number 3, cost. Very common issues. But I think there's also another one I would like to highlight here. It's about mindset. So it's important to have the right mindset and to be brave enough to go through this digitalization and have some patience in seeing results and take it through. So start small, pilot it first, and then scale it up to a level where it can bring you greater benefits. And how we think through in MDEC, we put ourselves in MSME's shoes and think how they would go through the journey. So in essence, there are 5 types of personalities or personas. As you can see in the slide, one is unaware of digital, the other one is knowing but not doing it. Thirdly, digital as a lifeline. Moving on is looking digital as an innovation, and the other one is to disrupt using digital means. So all depends on the digital maturity and awareness of this individual or personas. So each one of them have their own way of doing things, and we would like to mention that the programs that we have in MDEC are tailored to all these personas. In essence, we have developed simple, practical approaches for MSMEs to adopt digital solutions. There are basically 7 solutions ranging from social media, digital presence, e-commerce, payments, back-end data processing, cybersecurity, data analytics, emerging tech, through 2 programs, namely one is MDEC 100 Go Digital, the other one is SME Digital Accelerator. But then the question is, yes, if it's simple, how would an SME go through this journey? So they register with us, then we will, then through the pain points that they face, we have a list of technology solution providers. I think at the moment, maybe we have more than 200 already, and supported by grants. So if they have issues with financing, there are 2 types of grants we have. So I'll cover that shortly. So looking at 100 Go Digital program, so there's a coaching element in this. The tech companies will organize sessions. They have their own modules. They will coach the MSMEs, the need for digital, what kind of problems for which solution, how would it benefit them, how do they manage it, etc., etc. In today's technology capability, there are not many things that the MSME need to manage actually the solutions. Cloud applications allow flexibility. They can access from anywhere they want. Services are so affordable because of cloud services. It's no longer expensive today. So that's on the coaching side. The other one is the SME Digital Accelerator. It's a 3-month program where this particular MSME is extremely serious about achieving certain outcomes. So they go through this program and together with the technology service providers. And some examples that we have already obtained, the Serai Group, family-owned F&B SME. So they have adopted point-of-sale accounting solution, and they have optimized staff allocation, reduced labor hours by 20%, and centralized data management of all outlets. There was a local satay cafe seller who have embraced digital and thrived during MCO, 80% increase in revenue. So without digital, I'm not sure whether this 80% increase in revenue is possible. There's also a 15% improvement in process life cycle. And there's also a local urban cafe in KL, 10 to 15% increase in reach to wholesale clients. The SME Digital Accelerator is a structured program where it has step-by-step approach with outcome-based results. And there's a framework to this where MDEC has developed, from identifying problems right up to solving it, and also monitoring and assessing it. So we have all these things figured out. It's for the SMEs to take advantage of this. So some of the criteria, we have also put it up. It's accessible from our web. Just before we end this session, there's a slide to tell you what are the links that you can use to access these types of programs. So talking about grants, this is SME Business Digitalization Grant, or SBDG we call it. It's a collaboration between BSN and MDEC. So there's some criteria around this, types of companies, etc. And this is a grant up to 5,000 per company. So it's a matching grant, 50% up to 5,000. So if a solution costs 10,000, the SME or MSME only pays 1,000, and the technology service provider will actually facilitate to get the remaining 5,000 from BSN. So there's a managed cash flow from MSMEs. And the other fund that we have is Smart Automation Grant. We have just closed it just very recently. We are waiting for the next round, getting direction from the government. Most likely we'll know maybe end of this year or early next year. And this is also a matching grant based on outcome. And the fund amount, it's about 50% of total project cost, or up to 200,000. It's a larger amount with some expected outcomes outlined upfront. They need to achieve this to enjoy this grant. And the project duration is 1 month, but will be monitored for 3 months for the outcomes. Right. So there's a success story here. Christy Ng, as a local retail store specializing in women fashion. So they've implemented digital solution for omni-channel digital marketing, integrated platform, and data insight platform. They have seen 50% of business costs reduced, and 75% of man hours costs reduced. So it's a huge, significant drop in cost. Right. And just to mention about the spread of this benefits, it cuts across around the country. It's actually from Perlis to Sabah. Because it's virtual, and all these programs that we provide, services and coaching, going through a virtual mode, the reach is easier, urban, rural, so we don't have to go physical meets, etc. So we can do it faster, quicker, and more impactful reach. So we have touched about 20,000 SMEs, 6.35 million automation grant dispersed in 2020, and 20 million expected to be dispersed this year in 2021. Just to touch about e-commerce. Today, e-commerce contributes about 8 to 9% to our GDP. The 12 Malaysia Plan has set a target of 10.5% of the GDP. This particular area has gained momentum in manifold. I just want to touch about two of the programs that we are running today under Penjana and also Belanjawan 2021. Micro SME e-commerce campaign and Shop Malaysia Online. So we have consolidated a lot of these e-commerce activities, learnings, etc. through Go e-commerce, and we also promoting and encouraging MSMEs to export through Shop Malaysia Online, etc. So the target beneficiaries are the MSMEs, obviously, and we want to encourage Malaysian sellers to go market their product. So there's a funding mechanism available for example, there's a shipping voucher given to the traders for free, but the funding comes 50-50. If it's an international marketplace, the international marketplace will fund 50%, MDEC funds 50%, or government funds 50%. If there's a local platform, MDEC or government funds 70%, and the local platform funds 30%, so that the traders, the MSME business owners can actually enjoy free shipping vouchers. So some of our work that has shown positive impact. We have successfully partnered with 22 e-commerce platforms, so we have a very good close relationship with the ecosystem players. We are very much an industry development organization. We are a Ministry of Finance owned company. We are Sendirian Berhad, although we are known as an agency. And we have generated about 1.87 billion in terms of sales for Malaysian businesses 8.2 million transaction benefiting Penjana Shop Malaysia online campaign. 33,000 minimum of this number were new MSMEs that have registered on various e-commerce platforms, which is encouraging. So if you do more, I think that number will jump. And we also have 202,000 Malaysian merchants who have greatly benefited. If at all my presentation wasn't clear about where things are, etc., this slide should help you greatly. So take note of these two links in front of us today. One is 100 Go Digital for MSME digital adoption. If you go to that website, there are a lot of information on how to go about, register step by step, etc. The other one, number 2, is on e-commerce. So Go e-commerce is a consolidated resource platform. It even teaches basic e-commerce steps. There are a lot of videos, etc. So these two are extremely important links if you want to know more about these programs. So there's nothing permanent in this world, not even of troubles. So I know that a lot of MSMEs are facing issues today. Some are struggling. Some who have gone on digital platforms have seen some progress. Some have seen a lot of successes. But we just have to go on, be very strong in our conviction in doing our business, and keep learning. Make sure digital adoption is in your main agenda. Take the right steps to do this, and hopefully we'll be able to see more successes. So with that, I'd like to thank MIM again and you, the audience, for listening to my presentation. And over to Mr. Siva again.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Raja. Thank you for sharing the initiatives at MDEC. And in fact, MDEC is one of the key players, in transforming the digitalization of the digitalization economy. And thank you for sharing all the various initiatives. And just for the benefit of our participants, the next 3 sessions of our webinars will include speakers from MDEC too. Now, we have now close to about 150 participants today. And if you have questions, could you please key in into the chat or into the question areas, that is given under the Zoom platform. Then we'll pick this up. So once again, thank you, Raja. Then we'll see you shortly. Now, please allow me to introduce our second speaker, and he's none other than Mr. Balan Kathiravalu, Head of SME Banking Group, Commercial Banking, CIMB Bank. In short, I'll call him as KJ. KJ Balan has more than 29 years of experience in banking and credit. His working career covers sales and business development, credit and underwriting, and also sales transformation. He has worked closely with regulators, association, and business chambers to support and develop SMEs. Mr. KJ Balan started his career as an account executive and then progressed as credit officer, senior account manager, head of business center, regional head, and head business development in a local bank before being appointed as head SME banking at the CIMB. Mr. KJ Balan graduated from the University of Malaya in BA Economics and a Master in Management and a certified credit professional. Mr. Balan, over to you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have some little connection issues in getting Mr. Balan. He will join us shortly. Now, in the meantime, let's move on to our third speaker. Our third speaker for the day is none other than Miss Elain Lockman. Please allow me to introduce Elain is the CEO and co-founder of Atta Plus and Diran Berhad, a registered and recognized equity crowdfunding platform with the Securities Commission of Malaysia. Elain holds a BSc in Actuarial Science and a Master's in Operational Research from the London School of Economics and Politics Science. Elain began a career in Petronas before having stints in MDEC, Malaysia Debt Ventures, Digi Telecommunications, and Packet One Network until she founded Atta Plus in 2015. Ms. Elain is currently the council member of the Malaysian Business Angel Network. She is also the president of the Registered Digital Markets Association Malaysia. She is also the independent board member of a few public listed companies, independent board directors of University Tun Hussein on Malaysia. Elain was awarded the Berg 2019 Women Icons Malaysia and also the 2021 batch of Digitality 50 for exceptional contributions on Malaysia's digital economy. Ms. Elain, I welcome you, and it's your turn now to share.
Thank you. Thank you. First and foremost, good afternoon, everybody. Assalamualaikum. And thank you, MIM, for inviting me to speak this afternoon. Okay, the topic today is agri crowdfunding, scaling MSMEs with alternative finance. So today I'll be covering specifically on the role of alternative finance in the growth of SMEs in Malaysia. And I think Raja spoke at length about the importance of MSMEs to the nation's economy and as well as in terms of employment too. And he already covered on how the pandemic has affected the businesses, medium or small businesses. But I think from the perspective of alternative funding, we will share with you in terms of how alternative finance has actually helped support the sustainability, as well as growth of MSMEs in Malaysia. So let me start with what is agri crowdfunding. So I'm not sure if most of you are aware of the concept of crowdfunding, and the concept of crowdfunding is nothing new really. I think many years ago when we first started in terms of new businesses or new ideas, we would typically go to people that we know in our own community. I guess it would the closest to us would be our family and friends. Moving on, and today we can actually access people that we don't even know and beyond our reach as well as across geographies. And this is made possible with the internet, web technologies, as well as mobile technologies, and I would say social and digital media applications. Yeah. So the concept of crowdfunding is pretty simple. You pitch your idea or your value proposition to the crowd. You fundraise, and the contributors or the backers and funders will get rewarded accordingly with different instruments. So essentially, there are 4 types of crowdfunding. There's donation and reward crowdfunding, which are not regulated. So donation are typically for charitable causes. Reward crowdfunding are the most, I would say, common that people would immediately recognize are Kickstarter and also Indiegogo. So whereby you can pitch new concepts, prototypes, and you get funders and backers to support the new innovative products and services. Yeah. Equity and debt crowdfunding are typically regulated in various jurisdictions across the world. So P2P crowdfunding is very straightforward, is really loans, lending. And in Malaysia, P2P debt crowdfunding is only available for businesses, and it's regulated by Securities Commission of Malaysia. And equity crowdfunding is an instrument whereby you raise funds from the crowd in return, in exchange for equity or shares from your company. And eventually, it depends on the returns, and you can actually exchange for either ordinary shares or preference share structure. And equity crowdfunding is also regulated by the Securities Commission of Malaysia. So what's in it for project owners? Obviously, for businesses, it's generally about fundraising. But over the years, we've also observed that businesses actually opt for equity crowdfunding for marketing and visibility of their company, their businesses, their brands and products and services. Yeah. And for the backers, it's not only about looking at potential returns, but also in terms of growing with the business, as well as the rewards they can access to. So let's zoom in into the performance and of equity crowdfunding in Malaysia, the regulatory framework, and what's available for both investors as well as business owners out there. So ECF is short for equity crowdfunding, was introduced back in June 2015. And to date, there's 10 operators. Ada Plus is one of them. And the Securities Commission have actually come up with a set of guidelines, which has actually evolved over the last 5 years, 5-6 years since it's been introduced. So if you look at how it has evolved, initially when it was introduced in 2015, only private limited companies or Sendirian Berhad were eligible to access to this kind of instrument. Now, over and above that, limited liability partnerships as well as unlisted public companies or unlisted berhads are also permitted to raise funds via this fundraising instrument. Other requirements would be paid up share capital cannot exceed 20 million ringgit, which is currently being amended in the guidelines. We hope to see the new updated guidelines very, very soon. And fundraising limits, initially when it first started, it used to only be limited to 5 million ringgit and only 3 million ringgit per year. But now it's already up to 10 million, and it will be pushed up further to 20 million ringgit. And public listed companies and subsidiaries are not allowed to fundraise via this fundraising channel. Okay. Now, in terms of the compliance side of things, what's very important here is that businesses who are looking at fundraising via this channel need to ensure that you keep your books in order, your audited reports as well is current. So make sure you have that in order, because that's one of the, or two of the, I would say, most important criteria for submission to adhere to the compliance requirements of the Securities Commission. The second part of it is you need to have a minimum 3-year business plan as well as a corresponding 3-year financial projections. This is very important because at the end of the day, investors invest more of the looking at the potential of the business and what kind of return that can be brought to them by investing in these companies. Now let's talk about investors. What kind of investors can invest, right? So in Malaysia, there's 3 types of investor groups. So you've got the sophisticated investors where there's no restrictions in terms of investment amounts. So typically the definition of sophisticated investors are those who have a net assets of at least 3 million ringgit. Angel investors are defined as those individuals who are actually registered members of Malaysia Business Angel Network, and they can actually access to certain tax benefits. when they invest in tech businesses, and they have a limit of maximum investment of 500,000 in a year. And for retail investors, which is an average Joe, maximum of 5,000 ringgit for a company per issuer. We call it an issuer, and not more than 50,000 ringgit in a year. Okay. And what's interesting for Malaysia guidelines is that the SC also allows foreign investors to invest in this type of instrument. The only countries that we are mindful of are countries that sanctioned by Negara Malaysia, which are essentially North Korea and Iran. So just a snapshot of the performance of Agri Crowdfunding since it was launched up to as at end of June, 2021, and these are data from the Securities Commission. The campaigns that has been supported or funded are 214, over 200 SMEs, and close to 300 million ringgit. Yeah. So you can see that the breakdown between the amounts. So it is divided quite equally between those that's less than 500, between 500K and 1.5 million, and 1.5 million to 3 million, and above 3 million. So we feel that once the Securities Commission lifts up the maximum amount further to 20 million, you will see different types of companies coming to the fore. So, what is interesting is that over the years, the operators have been also engaging with the regulators, and Securities Commission is the way they work is very facilitative in nature. So they do want to support the MSMEs, and I'm very, very pleased to say that last year it was one of the best performing years for the agri crowdfunding industry, whereby the growth was close to 400%. And what we also observe is that the investor community are, always looking at, they were hungry for new investment products. Yeah, and if you look at the performance of the stock exchange across the world, even the bad counters, typically bad counters or non-performing counters were doing really, really well. So we were actually very, very worried when the pandemic first hit, but we worked very closely with the SC and looking at the performance, it worked, and I will share with you a little bit more later in terms of what we did and how the government actually supported the MSMEs in this aspect. And so coming back to the regulatory framework, how it has evolved. Initially, when this was started, it was the focus was especially on tech startups, which we find that I think the regulator found that it was very challenging for especially tech startups or SMEs to fundraise, or to get funding from I would say conventional channels, specifically financial institutions. And over the years, you see the I would say the development in terms of earlier I showed initially it was only Sdn Berhad, and then now even unlisted Berhads are allowed. So we'll see different types of businesses will come to the fore, and larger SMEs will actually look at this platform as an attractive channel of fundraising, rather than maybe going to the lead market, for example, whereby the cost of listing can be pretty steep, compared to if you work with equity crowdfunding operators and fundraise through this model. Okay, let me move on. Just to share with you a little bit in terms of the demographics of the investors, generally we'll see quite a big number of retail participation, but of course in terms of the contribution, the angel and sophisticated investors and institutional investors will put in a bigger amount of investment. In terms of age demographics, the younger generation tend to prefer this mode of investing. But we see over the years the numbers are getting bigger for those above 45. And just to give you a snapshot of the investor demographics geographically, so 95% are still very much localized, which is very typical of the equity crowdfunding industry. Yeah, generally local investors would support local businesses, but there's about 5% proportion coming from overseas. Yeah. So this is where I see, I mentioned earlier, the support from the government, and the government has always been very, very supportive of this investment asset class. And for the last 3 years, the government has put aside funds, to co-invest with the crowd, with the public, and it is called Malaysia Co-Investment Fund, or MySIF. So in total, the government has put aside or contributed 130 million to support both the equity crowdfunding platforms. And for every RM1, for every RM4 the crowd invests, the government will match with RM1 up to 1 million ringgit for every equity crowdfunding campaign. Okay, this shows the belief of the government in this new innovative way of fundraising. And over and above that, the government would also wanted to push or motivate the retail participation, retail investors in this new asset class. And for budget 2021, the government actually announced a 50% income tax relief for retail investors to invest in equity crowdfunding campaigns up to 50,000 ringgit a year for investments made from 1st of January 2021 up to 31st December 2023. So investors out there, do look seriously at equity crowdfunding as a potential new attractive fund, or I would say investing channel, investing asset class. So moving on, I would like to share some case studies on companies who have successfully fundraised via equity crowdfunding, and the case studies will actually highlight different elements. So this is Scholafund. Scholafund is actually one of the first companies that actually fundraised on Ataplas platform, and Scholafund is also the first company that gave exit to their investors in Malaysia when they were 100% acquired by a foreign party. And Scholafund is a impact type of business. They're a social enterprise whereby they provide. They're also a platform whereby they support underserved students, in terms of crowdfunding scholarships. So, and Scholafund is a business whereby it has received recognition across various sectors, and even the founders of Scholafund were recognized by Forbes as the under 30 entrepreneurs to look out for. However, over 12 months, for around over a year, they tried to raise funds, but they couldn't, mainly because, and they talked to more than 100 VCs and angels, and just because they are a social enterprise, and most of these VCs and angels are looking for profit maximization for their investments. So they turned to crowdfunding as a strategy, and true enough, they successfully raised funds from over I think if I'm not mistaken, over 25 investors, and very, very nice crowdfunding campaign whereby they actually accepted the smallest investment ever in Malaysia, and I would dare say across the world. The smallest investment that we have accepted to date is 10 ringgit. And they gave a 10% return to all their investors. So it was a very nice crowdfunding spread from the individual investors from 10 ringgit to 500, 300, 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 30,000, and Scholar Fund had 350,000 ringgit investors. Okay. So that's on Scholar Fund. But I guess for the investors, it was not just about the monetary return, but also the socio-economic return that Scholar Fund offered or that resulted from Scholar Fund business activities. Yeah. FinSpark is a very, very interesting case studies because this is where we see the true power of the crowd. Yeah, FinSpark actually raised over 2 million in 7 days. Yeah, so their minimum target of fundraising, if I'm not mistaken, was about 400,000, and they achieved their fundraising target, minimum fundraising target, on the 3rd day of fundraising. And on the 6th day of their fundraising, they had a Facebook live session, and an hour Facebook live session from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. With their community. So they have over 200,000 community of followers, and they raised 1.1 million ringgit overnight. So this is a very interesting case study, and Ada Plus had to shut down the payment gateway because people were still trying to invest. Their maximum target was actually 2 million. So so they actually burst their maximum fundraising target. And 70% of their investors were millennials. Luray is very interesting. Is quite established shoe brand, yeah, but so footwear brand. But Luray wanted to re-strategize and restructure and reposition their business. And the purpose of Luray fundraising or listing their equity crowdfunding campaign was not purely fundraising. It was actually the priority was on marketing. So they wanted to leverage on the crowdfunding visibility, yeah, to push out their story, their repositioning story, and Dato' Luray actually achieved that. They received extensive media coverage for their fundraising campaign. Makapan is also very interesting. So when they met Ada Plus, Makapan was only about 6 years old. 6 months old. I beg your pardon. So and these are a group of fresh young graduates, yeah, and but they raised 300,000. It's actually 300,000 from 20 investors, and I'm very, very pleased to say that Makapan has just closed their pre-series A about a few months ago. They're doing very, very well, and they are all set to be acquired probably in the next 1 or 2 years by one of the unicorns in Indonesia. So they are a Malaysian company, but they launched their business in Indonesia. So the last two case studies is really to showcase how these two companies actually fundraised during the pandemic with leveraging on their digital social media strategy, yeah, and working together very closely with Ada Plus. Yeah, so Fee5O raised over 3 million from 53 investors. Yeah, quite a number of investors were from Singapore because of their connections and network in Singapore. And JM Newton as well, they raised from quite a number of foreign investors. And JM Newton is also an example of a company that's led by a female with strong support from female investors too. So they had a very highly significant investor, a female investor from Hong Kong. So I'd like to share some examples of successful equity crowdfunding exits. Yeah, and it's a mix of Malaysian as well as foreign companies. So over and above Scholar Fund, which I mentioned earlier, so there were two other companies that gave some exits to their investors. Yeah, so My Cash Online, they in their next series of fundraising, 500 startups actually came in and offered to buy out all the ECF investors, which would have given close to 45%, of return just 2 years after the equity crowdfunding deal. And it's interesting to see that majority of the ECF investors chose to stay on. They did not take that offer. And Green Lagoon is another one. They raised about 800,000 from 24 investors. And after a couple of years, the owners, the promoters actually offered to buy out, but majority of the investors choose to stay on. This shows, a lot of the investors want a bigger upside. This is the beauty of equity crowdfunding. Because before equity crowdfunding came to the fore, generally man on the street, the average Joe, the retail investors would never get an opportunity to invest in the next big thing or a potential unicorn. And this actually gives the opportunity for the crowd to gain access. And people always ask me, what kind of in terms of return when we're talking about equity crowdfunding returns. So if you and I had an opportunity to invest in a company like Uber, and this is a true case study, say 10 years before Uber got listed. So say we had invested $10,000. So upon listing, the $10,000 would have grown to be 110 million US dollars. So that's the kind of huge returns we are talking about. It's not 2x, 3x, 5x, or 10x. Is over and above that. Sometimes it's, you wouldn't even have dreamed of having those kind of returns. So Seleczer is a UK-based company. They fundraised on Crowdcube way back then. And again, what I would like to highlight here is that I believe Seleczer also was very inclusive. Their smallest investment that they accepted on Seleczer was £7. So that's about 76. That's about 40, just above 40 ringgit. So and they gave their investors 270% returns of their investments. When I believe a private equity company acquired them. Beyond Meat is another company that they did an equity crowdfunding round just before their Nasdaq listing, and that gave a huge also return to their investors when their IPO went above $3.8 billion. Matter Technologies, another company on Crowdcube, also gave a very nice return for the investors, 9 times returns. Cruise, this shows sometimes if you're lucky, you get a huge return in a short time. So after their crowdfunding round, in less than a year, Cruise Automation was acquired by General Motors, and this gave their investors about 10x returns for their investments in less than a year, or to be exact, 6 months. And Brewdog is, I would say, a superstar in equity crowdfunding. They fundraise multiple rounds on Crowdcube. So for those of you who don't know who Crowdcube is, it is one of the top crowdfunding platforms based out of the United Kingdom. And this is an ECF unicorn. And they gave their original investors over 27 times returns of their investment. So what I would like to mention is there are key success factors, to crowdfunding. So and there's no one size fit all, to this. Okay. So if you look at here, I've listed out 6 elements, and it is a combination. So there's no one magic formula, right? So it's a combination of all these factors. So firstly, market traction is important. And when you talk about traction, it doesn't just mean sales. It means that you can have, for example, like Facebook, before they can even monetize. Their strategy was to get as many people, signing up on their platform, so that they can monetize it later. So the terms of investment is very important too. Look at your valuation carefully. What are you actually offering to the investors, and whether there are rewards that can be bundled into the investment, depending on the business, of course. The content is key. Look at your pitch deck, a pitch video, because a lot of your community, you may not even meet them. So a good pitch video is significant, and the content on your campaign page. A great community and a strong community would definitely help your campaign. And when you talk about community, it's not just family and friends. You're talking about your team, business partners, suppliers, customers, social media followers. You can look at some of our resources, educational resources on Ata Plus platform, or even on our YouTube, whereby we talk about how you can grow your community of investors. Your team is very important, because the investors would like to see whether the team can actually push the business forward and meet your goals and vision. And if the team is young, it would be good to have seasoned advisors to be part of your team. Last but not least, the commitment to the fundraising is key. And just a little bit about Ata Plus. We are one of the first equity crowdfunding operators that were recognized and given approval by the Securities Commission way back in June 2015. And we offer swift processes. Our process takes no more than 5 working days, of course, subject to completed of documentation and information provided to us. We make sure that we do the due diligence well and tight. We do provide value-added services, and over and above that, we are online and marketing, to support the campaign. This is our team. Just to share with you, these are my 3 co-founders, and our chairman is Dr. Samad Alias, who is also pretty well known in the investing community. He was the chairman of MAFCAP, MDB, as well as Cradle. And our team, and do take a look at our website for more information and resources on equity crowdfunding. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Elain. I think that's very insightful, and also I must congratulate you for being one of the pioneers in this area, and also thank you for sharing how to scale the business through the alternative financing via ECF. There are a couple of questions, interesting questions that have come. I will hold it back later for the Q&A session. But once again, thank you very much. Now, let's move on to our third speaker. Mr. Jaya Balan is here with us now. And Mr. Jaya Balan is the head of SME banking, group commercial banking for CIMB Bank. I've earlier introduced Mr. Jaya Balan's profile. Now, I'd like to invite Mr. Jaya Balan. Mr. Jaya, please. Mr. Jaya, you need to unmute yourself. Mr. Jaya, you're muted.
Okay. Is the slides up? Yeah, thank you. Everyone, thank you again. Sorry for, I think, again, that's one of the challenges today, broadband and as to sufficient broadband for businesses. Now, just to give a background, I have been for 30 over years now. And, when I started in 1989, that was just after the recession then in 85 onwards. And in four crises, that was the 97 Asian financial crisis, and then you have the 2008 some kind of recession, and then again the oil price crisis that happened, and today the pandemic that has swept in. So all this, during all this crisis, we can to the as well as the challenges that were posed post-crisis. But this time around, it was really, and I think most SMEs were really challenged this time around because really major change run. The previous time, either could be financial crisis, could be but this time it challenges to survive. And I don't think in my entire years of looking at businesses have to the operations. So unprecedented, and today I think we have come through quite relatively stronger. I would unsketched but stronger, learn better to survive, right? So here the new norms, although I think in the first presentation just now you saw the GDP, there was a decline in the GDP, but that is not, I think there are months that the businesses were not in operation. We definitely would have contracted to some. But I think as the market is reopening and we are reaching such a foundation, I believe the business will grow. The question is, how do you get ready to the new business? So the other challenges, SME's ability to repay severely been impacted because we have to survive many months, almost 18 months to 2 years. We now understanding Malaysian market, the consumer, I think 70% of GDP is consumers, and cash flow becomes for SMEs. Now I'll touch a lot more on financing because I think that's one of the challenges moving forward for the SMEs. And of course, Malaysian SMEs are very highly dependent on the external economy. I mean, we are trading 80% of it, right? And there was a lot of supply chain disruption. And those were adopted, I think we could have been much ahead, but I think this transformation that has 1 year of pandemic really mind-changing developments, which I think many SMEs today, digitization or digitalization is a necessity. Pandemic also has altered the resources of the SMEs been substantially right. So therefore, financial sustainability is an issue, and of course, the women entrepreneur, which is I think an economy that needs to be. Now, what are the issues faced by the SMEs post-pandemic, right? Then we are facing a situation of the rising cost, not just cost of operation, cost of doing business, the welfare, to have an insurance, right? Cash flow management, I think this is an important aspect of the business. How can you be more precise in managing their cash flow? Export is in marketing beyond border. Many of the SMEs has been only now with the adoption can they go even global in it is a necessity. Global supply chain logistic has developed so much, and consumer behavior towards e-commerce. Now, just to share an experience in the discussion that I had with one of my clients that in the F&B industries, pre-COVID they were all over the counter. They have kiosks, they have shops, more. But post-COVID, post-pandemic, 40% of the sales were via online platform, via e-commerce, via payment online. Now, would it back to zero? No, it has come down, but it will stay, right? So the digital disruption is real, and we heard that in the news in Penang, particularly some of the old hawker stalls were closed because they didn't platforms. So that's real. So in information post-COVID, I will talk about credit assessment, what matters to businesses, how they prepare themselves in terms of the credit, why cash flow management is important, what are the tools that you can use in managing your cash flows. Banking trust now, that's major change, right? I remember even the last couple of months when I see the banks, when we go past by, you can see long queue outside branches. In the past, you did that because of the COVID, the SOP, the aspect of the businesses, they have to keep number of customers outside. So how are we going to deal? We are not going to forever be waiting outside the bank branches, and the banks are already digitizing the processes to now digital adoption, not in terms of sales, e-commerce, payments, operations, anything that will contribute to the efficiency businesses. And then, of course, the productivity. Do we manage our staff from home? Do we manage our staff from office? I think the many role. How do you manage the all these are the we do not the operations, and today is critical to digitize this thing. Lessons learned in the pandemic that digital transformation is not nice to have. It is a must to have this, and this is you probably even cut out it, right? So I think that we have learned that the hard way, and I can see that digitalization, either digitization or digitalization of the process, whatever it is a necessity for the businesses today. So, how we organize ourselves to support our customers that are faced by the SMEs in terms of cash flow management. So our SME Transact solutions, basically cash management solutions that we have in terms of payment. How do you pay your suppliers? How do you pay your statutory body, pay your staff, right? So all this needs to be more organized and managed better through digitalized processes, digitalized systems. Why this is important when it comes to your credit at the later part, when you want to apply for financing, why these things matter. I will show key features of why underwriting or how the banks evaluate the businesses. So the way we manage our transactions reflects our business and our financial management capabilities, and that is something that we don't want to ask SMEs to come and show me. We don't do that. We don't do this anymore, right? So assessment are very simplified. It based on data, on your transaction record. Hence, you need to ensure that your solutions that has, such as our online banking system you to manage the entire operations are adopted. I'll talk about finance in detail later. We have also digitized the process of again, it's practical, right? You can't go to the bank branches, you can't see the bank officers. So instead of asking people to see first, collect the document and then process the paper, we have revamped the processes to just go online, enter via phone. So this kind of changes, digitizing the processes itself is very important. Now, one of the challenges faced by the SMEs in one of the articles that I read, that we can't meet the clients, right? We can't meet the clients. You can't meet your customers. How do you do that? So the online, the virtual pieces such as Zoom, WebEx, Teams allowed us to be able to interact. Although maybe not used to this new norm of interaction, but it enables us to do what we couldn't do in the past, and maybe at ease, and right. But that doesn't mean that we are not keen on face-to-face meetings. That's something that we will do. I believe that will improve. Now, partners. What is SME partners? Now we can't process. Now we have solutions. We have logistic solutions, but those are not solutions that's done by us. Our clients, whom we work together to provide this to our on forward to our new. So we work with our partners. We have example like of Exabyte, the like of Shopmatics, Biz HR, which is providing the digital solutions for employees. So it is out for clients, but enable that process of via CIMB's a bit background on Transact. This customizable business current account where you are able to have the banking transaction record, and even for them have to leave your house to open the bank account. The channel is a mobile banking application. You can do your transaction where, and it's a complete solution, right? Therein you have the payroll solutions, your payment solutions, and collection of those things, right? Now, CIMB at Work is a solution. Basically, what we do here is we provide solutions, and I mentioned just now, together with one of our business partner, our clients, they also provide HR solutions to our clients, right? So in a way, if you want to have your staff attendance, they have a solution that will be suitable to you, and that together with CIMB for our customers. And of course, e-commerce for payment of purchase for your of the online purchases. You have the business platinum card, and of course, this channel. We have just we have a commercial board. Now, why that? Over the last month, a year behind, we have a lot of customers that try to call center and our branches because they are able to operate. Now, very basic, and this causes anxiety among customers. And these are the questions that we have worked together with our partner, and we have put it into our chatbot. So just before you come to the bank, before you speak to your RM, before more details, your application, you have the chatbot there, which will give you all the basic information to be able to find out those information that you need. So compare to say 1 year, 2 years in time, where you have to call your RM to your office and explain to you all this time that we spend talking, discussing, and things, how to apply information. All we need to simplify. We need to make the available at your fingertips. Right? That's what this process of digitizing the digitalization and digitizing the process is all about. right? And the chatbot, if you go to chatbot EVA, it's something, all the details, what you need to when you speak to the RM. So ideally, when you speak to the RM, basically you already know about your product, or to discuss its terms, right? That cuts short the story, straight to the point. In case you want to apply for a repayment assistance, all the information, what you need to prepare. So digitization and allows even us as a large organization to verify things that we were doing, which takes maybe 2 days, 3 days. If you need some assistance, by the time you call an RM, it takes 3 days for them to come or 2 to come. Today is at your fingertips. Now, again, I mentioned this just now, right? In the past, if you want a form, you want to apply for a current account, what do? You go to the branch, you take a form, you fill it up, you get all the documents. So that's 2 visits to the branch. And this QR link to our website where you fill in the forms online, and it's a drop form to the bank, and then you just go purely to do the biometric signature. So that is 180%, 360 degrees in terms of how this was done a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, right? And what it means when we simplify process, and similarly, any SMEs for that matter, need to look at your processes, the way you engage your client. To be digitized, you need to have your website, your web store. So if it's an order through online, you should be able to, because you see your consumers have that to buy online. We will say in the past, if people do not want to touch and feel, right? And that's not true, because I think the last 1.5 years to 2 years, we learned that we can live with buying online. Even buy groceries and through their online platforms, and either whatever. The whole thing about the new norm of doing whatever we do in the past in a manner that doesn't involve face-to-face and visits, right? So that's possible. Now let's look at the financing. This is one topic that has been discussed extensively in the country and even towards the budget. What is challenging? In fact, today one of my colleagues from the some of the SMEs mentioned that they cannot obtain loans. I will check out next couple of slides on what is keeping financial records. I think I remember earlier when I mentioned about our online current account, why you need to maintain your business current account properly, why you need via online. This is not for you to have a proper financial record, for it to be able to be accessed by your bank and business owners and management. How to record. Now, documents is today you may still deal with some business statements are still hard copy. Editors are still preparing this in a manual hard copy format. I know when reports are prepared, but there were already valuers, some of the accountants which I have engaged have already digitized version of their financial statement. You need it, they can use, right? Which is you can then upload instead of submitting the hard copy. So I would reckon in next couple of years, this document extending to the bank in of paper copy will no longer be there and will be totally digitized. And we are already working now. How do you build a credit record? Right? Most of the banks underwriting today when applying for a loan, it's very fundamental that you have to have a credit rating, right? And many of you would have been familiar with the credit rating. There are a lot of credit rating agencies in the country: CITOS, Ramsey, sometimes Bradstreet, CBM, they are agencies, and they do credit score for India. And some of these companies, like Citon, if you want to know what's your credit, always go and check. Now, what impact credit score? What is component of the credit score? Now, payment record. Remember why I always go back to your hyper transaction record. It's very important, right? Of course, in some underwriting, summons and IC replacements may not be used for scoring, but some other aspects of scoring, say for insurance, they also use scoring, utilization of credit cards, too many credit cards, and totally debt-free. This will have some impact on the credit scoring. But I will share with you maybe in the next couple of slides how do you build a record, right? Excessive facility, bounce check, of course, and also responsibility as a guarantor. So let's look at some of the next step. How do you? What do you mean by credit record? Now, if you want to apply for a loan, you will say the decline. Very seldom people say is because of comments, is because of the that seldom, because of the time incomplete document is just the first visit. You need to give me all these documents, month bank statement, give me your financial, your ICs, and it's impossible for people. Definitely, they are able to provide, but people, consumers or SMEs, especially the SMEs, lacking is they don't manage their finance carefully. Neither they pay attention. Maybe they are prompt, but if they don't unable to provide the credit, unable to keep accounts. Right? These are requirements that is needed when you want to build a credit record. So first item that I put there, spending time, manage finance. So I know that some of the SMEs, there are only 1 or 2 people running the business. They are busy doing their sales, busy doing their collection. Do you have time to manage your finance? It is necessary. If you spend days of a week running your business together, you must use one day to manage your finance to see, do you have enough to go forward? Do you have enough to, you don't want to default them. So start banking early. Make sure that all the transactions going through statements so that it can be always read by the bank and can be. Making sure the collections and payment are all done by banks, interbank, or what, right? And most of the banks, they also have embedded accounting software. Ensure all your payments that you make are through standing instructions, regular payment. That's the financial discipline of the enterprise. Obtain a credit line which is easier to manage. I'm tempted to, my friend got this credit line, it's interesting. But if you do not know how to get into it, right? And don't mix personal with time, especially the MSME, just partners, or sometimes your personal expenses you also coming, which will dilute or might not give a correct picture of your embark on e-payment. A lot of what your business, it will give a good reflection of your business and keep your records well in terms of the finance. And proper conduct of account within limit. I think this is when you think facility, you need to really, because poor conduct of account will impact your credit score, right? Now, credit application process, this is something that in the past you can see the lines, there are a lot of documents, but I can assure you in many cases, this has been substantially reduced. I'm just giving you what used to be in the past and what will be in the future. Today, some of the small loans, which is 100,000 for SME, we are 3 minutes and getting the disbursement done to the client. So other loans, maybe those loans below $1 million, will be through processes which you don't even give documents. Some of the larger loans, maybe if you're financing, you want to buy a property, that may take a normal process. Now, using of SME scorecard, you may say, is it fair for me to be rated? But that's the key. We all have to be cognizant cognizant of the fact that all banks will be rating us. Our ratings are dependent on the way we behave. That's what I mentioned earlier. How you conduct, how you build your credit record is very important, because this is how the banks will be assessing your credit worthiness in future. So I think if you have challenges with your finances, right, go and organize yourself. Go and get yourself organized in the sense that if you need a risk loan, go and do it early. Don't wait until you get into a problem and then you default. At the time, all the transactions, all the default reflected in the system. My sales is slowing down. Looks like I might not be able to pay this commitment next year. So let's go and talk to the bank. Hey, can you reduce payment for the next 1 year by 20%? And then I come back the year after. I will increase my step-up loan. Be proactive. Go on, into discussion with the bank. And today, all the banks, in fact, the last 1 year, we have done thousands of cases in a month, all online, straight to processes for you to readjust the repayment. In fact, today, we are still facilitating, especially many of the businesses which had cash flow issues over the last 2 years because of, not because of they didn't pay, but because the demand was not there. And definitely we will facilitate lower repayment for them, because the market is, we will better next year. So you say, I will take interest servicing for this 6 months. After that, the repayment by 10%, I said 23 hours repayment. That's critical for businesses to understand. Again, how do I get this into financial assistance? If you want to use CIMB, I want to know what can I do with my loan if I want to extend my loan tenor to apply the Pemulih and Pemulih scheme. All you have to do is scan this QR, and you just answer the question. I tell you, I will assure you this is less than 60 seconds. Right? You will get to the when your application is done. Clearly, if you want to have a working capital facility, you apply. Somebody will be contacting you within the right. So that's how we have done this. And if we to rewind this back 1 year, you have to walk to the bank, take a form, fill up this financial relief assistance or working capital. So again, even a large bank like us, we had no choice but to change the rate, because this is the new norm. Right. Partners. Let me quickly go through the partners. We are in partnership with IP88, Easy Store, Easy Parcel, businesses. All these are our partners who provide solutions for our SMEs, right? And some of our relationship, we are offering all this at a discounted price to CIMB customers and do. These are the things that we not be doing, but given our partners are better in this, so we co-opt solutions. Right? Again, same process. If you want to know how scan the QR and you'll be taken back. Right. Anyways, my last slide. Adapt a new norm, new business environment. We have no choice. The past is no longer there. Even the entire process for lending, for transactions, it is something new. It is what we are doing. So do not go back the way things were even then. Digital adoption is a must. There's no other way. Digital is the way of life, and I'm sure all of you know and will feel your kids are very much more digitalized than us. The next generation is fully digitized, and take care of your account. I think it's a responsibility as an entrepreneur, as a businessman. If we are owner of a business, then we make sure that we manage finances, and I've given you how, right? So that's all from me. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Jaya Balan. Thank you for sharing those insights. And Raja, are you there? Right. So we have all the panelists back with us, and now I would like to pose some of the questions that has been posted by our participants. Now, Raja, I'll pose to you the first question from one of the participants. Please confirm if Smart Automation Grant has been closed for mid-tier corporations.
Yes, it is closed.
It
Confirmed.
is closed, huh? Okay. There is another question for Ms. Elain, and this is there are several equity crowdfunding players in Malaysia. What are the criteria an investor needs to look at in choosing the right platform?
Okay, what I would like to say here is that investors can invest anywhere. So investors are not exclusive to any platform. So I think when you look at investing, you need to look at the campaigns that you are investing in. So irrespective of the platform, and what is really important is you need to read the information that is presented to you, and also the investment terms, and ensure that you totally understand what you're investing in. Yeah, do not invest because everybody is investing, so I invest. So you must always understand what you're investing in. So irrespective of which platform it is. So the most important thing is understanding the business and the fundraising campaign. Yeah. So say for example, there's 10 platforms, right? And you can actually invest in platform number 1, number 3, number 5, or even in all 10. Yeah, that's number 1. Number 2, also you can the best thing is always to diversify your investments. So never put your eggs in one basket. So if you have say 10,000 ringgit that you want to invest in, so you can spread your investments. Now understand that equity crowdfunding is really inclusive. And this is where we are saying that it can be as low as 10 ringgit. So it really depends on the business owner, what is the minimum investment entry point. So we have had companies that offer 200 ringgit entry point, 500 ringgit. The highest entry point was, I believe, close to 20,000, which is not friendly to retail investors. So if you're a retail investor, look for those that's below 5,000. However, if you do want to invest more than 5,000 ringgit, you can actually self-declare as a sophisticated investor and just self-declare, but no one's really going to check whether your net capital assets is minimum 3 million, put it that way. But rest assured that each operator will do their EKYC and AMLA requirement checks. Yeah. Thank you.
Elain, would ATA be able to assess and provide that kind of, we won't say assurance, but at least to say that the principle is to some extent guaranteed?
Oh no, we don't. We don't because it is prohibited by the SC. By the way, we are regulated by the Securities Commission of Malaysia, and the SC has clearly mentioned in the guidelines that the operator has to remain independent. So our role is really to make sure that the compliance requirements are duly met, and the full disclosure of information, is provided by each crowdfunding campaign.
There was a question just now, since you mentioned about SC. Someone has asked on who are the regulators, but you have already mentioned that it is SC. But apart from SC, are there anybody else?
No. So we are regulated by the Securities Commission. Yeah.
Solely
and both,
regulated by it.
Yeah, both equity crowdfunding and P2P. Yeah, both regulated by Securities Commission.
Thank you. Now let me move to Raja. There is another one. Let you pick this up. This is from one of the participants. He said that we are a micro SME providing work management solution and training to corporate organization. Are we eligible to participate in the grant program so that our customer can enjoy the SME grants?
Right. Work management system and training. Okay, that's need more clarity around that. If it's a tech company, then yes, under the SME Business Digitalization Grant, we are still taking in the technology service providers, but not for the SAG grant, but need to be a pure tech company. A training company will not qualify.
Thanks, Raja. And Mr. Balan, this question is for you. Is CIMB looking at providing capacity building programs for MSMEs? And what we see is more products and loans being offered. I mean, capacity building is long term. Participant would like to know your opinion, please.
Capacity building program, and one of the programming is together with Retailers College. We focus on the micro SME and the B40 group. In the last year, October, we have completed almost 4 cohorts of 30 to 50 applicants, including one we did is with the disabled group for those group that are small business. So there's a lot of capacity building program. I think the whole of last year we had about close to 6,000 over participants in various seminars. If I can recall, the last 1 or 2 days ago, you can for article in Star. We have extensively of capacity building we have done. And I think the other questions, of course, has this helped the MSMEs? Many of our participants from the microfinancing enterprise cohorts have also been guided by our partners. Just now, remember when I mentioned our SME partners, those partners, they are the one who's guiding the clients for them to set up their web store. How do you sell online? So we facilitate this. We are not a subject matter expert in e-commerce, but we have our partners who guide these SMEs most of the participants have signed up for the e-commerce. And okay, I also heard another question: who stands a chance to secure bank, those digitized or non-digitized? So I just had this. When we do entrepreneurs, how are you surviving? How do you plan to survive in future? Because the fact that you survive in the past doesn't mean that in the right. Yeah. So then we the entrepreneur, a lot of them say that look, digitized. I also and even the smallest industry already have 30-40% of their sales online, right? So that is being resilient and taking the steps to improve. That's what we understand from them, and that's how we help them move forward. Right? Definitely, capacity is has been on. I think in 2020 it was slowed down, all because we meet, but we also shift going program.
Right. Thank you so much. And Elain, as investors, we have more access to other regions these days. Can you clarify the USPs of Malaysian ECFs that makes it more attractive to invest in comparison to overseas ECF?
It is actually about the campaigns itself. Okay, it's not about the platform operator. It's really about the fundraising campaigns and the I guess the investment offering, the returns and the potential of the individual campaigns. So I guess if you look at it generally across the world, right? Generally, local investors would support local businesses. Yeah, that's number one. Number two, obviously, if the investors were to invest in a campaign in the US, then you're talking about a higher denomination. So obviously here you're investing in the ringgit Malaysia, and then there's also as an investor you also need to check whether it's taxable as well, in terms of tax, taxation and so on. But otherwise, typically we would hope that the local investors would support local entrepreneurs. Yeah, and as we speak, I've seen many companies that has great potential. And moving on, in terms of investing, in equity crowdfunding now, there's many different type of returns that's also provided. It's no longer just limited to ordinary share structure, but preference share structure is allowed now. So there's a pretty interesting, innovative instruments as well that when they design their investment offering too. So do take a look at the local campaigns. Yeah, so I'm here on behalf of not just the operators but also the SME community. Do support our local companies because we really do have very, very good companies.
I will remember that you're one of the Gujarati 50s. We should be able to reach out to you. Okay, Raja, I'll go in sequence. I'll give you, there are two questions. Okay, one is, do we need to prove business profitability in order to apply for grants with MDEC? That's the first question. Second one is, can new businesses apply for grants?
No, we don't look at profitability, but we look at paid up capital. That's one. If you go to the website, the criteria is there. The other one is, can new business be part of this if they are at least 6 months old? That's the criteria. So they got to be 6 months old at least.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Balan, can you share some success stories of the micro, small and medium enterprises, that are scaling up through the digital banking solutions of CIMB?
Yeah, I think if you look at one of the publication that we did in recent, testimonials from MSME who have participated in our microfinancing building capacity program. And subsequent to that, we have introduced to them to the e-commerce partners who have helped them to build their web stores, and they will increase their sales through that. So one of the key agenda of building the program is to educate the in terms of financial literacy. I did this in my discussion just now, that it is not just about having sales and then selling, collecting, and that's done. It's not that. The entrepreneur themselves needs to spend time managing their finance. How do I manage my finance? Do I have enough for my cash flow? So if we are going to be a seller in Lazada, for example, you want to participate in the 11/11, for example, how prepare? Because you in a single day, you have prepare yourself for so much of so that education process for the micro SMEs is something that we did during the session, and many of them have benefited, and you can hear their testimony. Second is the reason why we have partners on board is that whenever they need that solution, say for example the e-commerce store, and then the partners will help them to build their stores, teach them how to use, teach them how to sell through their online store. So that's the process of education that we are doing. And then on the part of financing, we work with IMSI, we work with several other agencies to come out with the curriculum for education, where we say we teach these entrepreneurs, look, how do you manage, if you want to apply for a loan, it's not something that, hey, I bring your collateral 1 million, can I get 5? It doesn't work that way. How do I build a credit exercise? Just on the price, I have to build a credit record. But how do I build a credit record? So the entrepreneurs, hey, if you want to apply for a loan 6 months down the road, these are the things that you need to do. These are the steps that you take. So at that point of time, when you apply for a loan, you don't get rejected, right? So that's the process of the capacity building, both in terms of financial as well as in terms of building their sales and their business.
Thank you. We're almost coming close to the end of this webinar session. So let me ask one round of last questions to each one of you. Elain, this is the last question for you is, which type of business will attract more investors?
So it's not about which type of business, about how can you sell a story. all right, why should investors invest in it? This is irrespective of which industry you're in. Like I mentioned just now, right, a company like Sekolah Fund, it may not be attractive to a typical investor that is looking for maximizing profits, but they appeal to what we call investors who are looking for SDG type of businesses, or sorry, ESGs, and these are the ESG type of investments, I would say. So it really depends on the investor, what kind of companies that they're looking at. It doesn't mean that an investor invests in company A, it won't invest in company B, C, D, or E. So we always tell business owner that at the end of the day, right, even like I gave the key success factors, right? If all that tick boxes are done, what I think forgot to mention there is that the storyteller is also very important. We've had businesses that's fantastic, but the storyteller was terrible, So, and you need to make sure that you have a very strong storyteller that can really showcase the potential of your business, and that can sell ice to the Eskimo, put it that way, But obviously, you are selling a good story because you believe in your potential, you can give good returns, and so on and so forth. So, at the end of the day, it's all about how you actually sell the value proposition of the business and why investors should invest in your company.
And Elain, do you need a video too?
For that, yeah, of course. I mean, to us is a lot of businesses will find it like they don't think it's important, but for us, it's one of the, I would say it's important because especially if you want to reach out to people that you potentially would never meet face to face. No doubt we do virtual pitching sessions now, but there are people who will just go to the campaign page or even look at your social media pages and you push your video, and that's where they get to so-called meet the promoters or the business owner. And that's where you can immediately, gain the eyeballs and to attract them and, get them to attract them in a way that they would want to know more about your business. So it's always a strategy. Yeah.
And I also want to thank you for the case studies. You've taken trouble to show those case studies. Very impressive. And I like the Scholar Fund. It's also, it opens up the minds for people. Even a social enterprise could come into this, for equity crowdfunding. Good. Thank you for sharing those, case studies. Very useful. At least it opens the mind. And Raja, the last question for you is, how are Malaysian SMEs performing in terms of digitalization in comparison to our peers in Singapore, Vietnam? Are we behind? Are we losing out on opportunities in ASEAN market as the world is getting smaller and digitization is happening at a high speed?
Yeah, very good question. Yeah. Very good question. Unfortunately, I don't have the data now to tell how are we compared to the other neighbors that we have around us in terms of SME digitalization. But what I can tell is neighbors who are very close to us, I think they are ahead of us. The one down south, definitely, because of their sheer size of economy and population ratio, they are more advanced. The good news is we are also ramping up a lot of initiatives and policies today. You can see the penjanas and the incentives, etc., coming today. There are more and more government efforts put in place for SMEs to come on board. The only challenge that we have is scaling up. How do we scale that up to a volume that is critical to move the needle, right? So that's where we believe working with private sectors are extremely important. Just depending on government sector alone or government services alone, I think it's going to be very difficult. Hence, through our e-commerce programs, etc., we play very, very well together with the industry stakeholders, platform players, etc. So they kind of really push the numbers. So they are actually delivering high volume numbers. So hopefully in years to come, or not too far from today, we are able to show really pretty good results. Yeah.
Thanks, Raja. Your shoulders are going to be heavy in keep doing the good work. There's a lot of things to be done. Now, the last question for Mr. Bala is, a recent study shows that in terms of sources of financing, bank financing is for about 18%. So please explain how banks are planning to improve on this.
I find it 18%, but I thought the number 42%. But anyway, agree that not 100% businesses are being financed by the bank. The industry has its own ecosystem. A lot of SMEs do get financing from their suppliers, on top of their own financing. The big portion will be the supplier credit. The suppliers are funding the ecosystem as the transactions continue. We are very much a trading nation. I mentioned trades on credit and those get funded. But as far as bank facilities, my record shows is about 42%. So definitely there are room for improvement, especially the micro enterprise. That's why the financial literacy and the capacity programs are important, which we are doing, because we want to prepare the micro enterprise for them to be able to secure lending. And to do that, they must prepare themselves. It's not just, it's no longer collateral lending. That is really fast. The banks, the industries, as an industry, last year itself, the relief fund, 10 billion was released to the market without collateral, right? So banks are not depending on collateral to lend anymore, right? And this year, the targeted relief facility, there's another 6 billion. All these are not collateralized loans, right? So most of them, banks will do on cash flow basis, credit basis for lending. So there's opportunity for most of the SMEs to scale up. And I think when we are, maybe in next 5 years, we should see at least 60% of them to some form of financing, right? I think 40% is not bad, but I don't think it's 18%. So it's definitely much better than that.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Jay. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all the panel speakers. Thank you so much for coming on board and sharing your expertise. I think this has really helped, and there are many out there, some of the MSMEs probably has given them some avenues and where to explore. So once again, thank you very much. And to all our participants, thank you for staying with us. And I would like to request if you spare a minute to give your feedback about today's session by clicking in the link below. And last but not least, I want to thank our sponsors, Conrad and Stephen, for sponsoring the crucial conversations. And we look forward to having you at the next session, which is on digital skills for a digital world, which is happening on next Tuesday, 5th October, between 2 to 4 p.m. So thank you very much. And stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.